Hi there and welcome again to the channel. Today we're doing something a bit different, no face cam, and a big focus on the scenery because we've got something quite special to take a look at today. We're taking a look at a pre-release version of NZA Simulation's Milford Sound region scenery. We're going to take a short flight here in the Kodiak 100 to explore a small part of the Milford Sound region. We're going to fly from Milford Sound Airport itself over to Quinton Lodge Airstrip, just down the valley. It's only about a 10 or 12 minute flight, but you should get a good feel for some of the detail that NZA and the team have added into this beautiful region of the South Island of New Zealand. The whole area that they've covered off here is actually almost 100 kilometers from north to south, with heaps of different airstrips, helipads, scenery details, small little cabins, even waterfalls, as you'll see during this little flight. So let's get the Kodiak up and running. Just a few minor switches to flick, get our lights on, get our cabin lights on, get our window heat on there, and then we can get ready to start our taxi. Even just sitting here on the apron, you can see the beautiful trees and vegetation that they've added here in the Milford Sound village. Okay. And we're rolling. There we go, a bit of power. Obviously some sound effects as well, as you heard in the intro, a little bit of water lapping on the shoreline in the background. The Kodiak's a perfect little plane for these short takeoff and landing strips in the middle of these pretty epic valleys in the South Island of New Zealand. Not many of them actually operating in Australia and New Zealand, unfortunately, but it is still the perfect plane to make this little journey for us today. We can carry a nice amount of cargo. We've got a load of boxes in the back that are needed over at Quinton Lodge for some of the holiday makers staying out in the wilderness. So let's get our Kodiak lined up on the runway here. Should be no problem at all, this paved runway for the Kodiak. Plenty of runway length for us to get going. So let's line her up, and just a few final preparations. Get the transponder on and squawking. Here we go. Transponder's on, and of course we've got to start the chrono, a bit of a meme on the Amplifiers channel. Very important. One of the most important buttons that any plane has is the stopwatch. And with that set, I think it's time to get going. So we'll slowly feed in the power and roll out of Milford Sound. And speed's coming up. That's 40. That's 50 knots. 60 knots. 70. And whoops, she wants to fly. Here we go. Nice little replay of that. And as we climb out, we'll just get to a nice stable 1,000 feet here in the Sound. And just gain a bit of speed, bring our flaps up and retrim. And a few things that you might be able to see here in the Sound itself. There's Milford Sound Underwater Observatory. Pretty much we'll be flying right over that. And just off our nose there was Stirling Falls. NZA have modelled some beautiful waterfalls. The first time I've seen animated waterfalls in the simulator. And plenty of little details, not just airstrips and cabins, but also they've done a lot with the terrain and the imagery Added lots of rocks and trees and flowing rivers even. Plenty of extra organic details to see, as well as 3D modeled buildings and things here. And you can see some of those actually off the left of the plane here. There's the little Milford Sound village. So we'll just turn into the valley and slowly make our way at a nice 1,000 feet down the valley here. Quinton Lodge is right at the end of the valley. Some epic scenery for us to take a look at along the way though. And the Kodiak's not a small GA plane, you know, but here against some of these epic mountains, it really does get dwarfed by the scenery of the South Island of New Zealand. Fantastic place to fly GA planes, let me tell you. This plane looks flying through the forests of the South Island of New Zealand. As we get closer here to Quinton Lodge, we will start bringing the speed back. We're going to have to do a few tight turns as we come in and as the valley tightens, just as it gets towards the lodge here. Start bringing that speed back to about 80 knots. Maybe a notch of flaps as well. And you'll spot lots of little cabins, smoke effects, all sorts of little Easter eggs and details all around this region now that NZA have had a go at it. Start banking in towards the airstrip. Can't quite spot the strip just yet, but I know it's there, and it's behind some of these trees on the left. Just keep looking for it. It's going to be there soon. Somewhere behind this pillar, I think. Oh, there it is, just coming into view there. Let's turn towards it. Hopefully we're nice and slow. Okay, we're ready to land. Get those flaps all the way out and start bringing the power back, because we're pretty fast. Should have no problem on this strip, but... oh, okay. That wasn't too bad for a short grass strip, but wouldn't call it butter. Looks quite nice from the outside though, doesn't it? Okay, we need to stop now. Stop, stop, stop. Good job, the Kodiak has a very strong beta range. Gets us stopped in no time. Perfectly positioned to unload our cargo here at the lodge. So let's bring the condition lever right back and the prop right back and start shutting the plane down so that it's safe to unload the cargo. Turn our heat off, turn some lights off. And let's stop the motor. There we go. Jenny, alternator, turn those electric buses off. Pretty sure that prop should stop spinning now. It's coming back. There we go. Let's unload some boxes, shall we? And by the magic of editing, we now are much lighter Kodiak and hopefully able to get out of this short strip and make our way back to Milford Sound. Let's close up the doors. I love this little Kodiak. It's really Nicely done. There we go. Open up the window, just give ourselves some air while we get us started. Main power on. And we're ready to go, just like that. You can see some of the detail here of Quinton Lodge, and this is representative of, you know, all of the area that NZA have done. Added loads of detail to a number of the strips, and lots of little cabins and places to land here in these epic valleys in the South Island. So we've got a short strip to get out of. Let's get all of our lights on. Heater heat's already on. Everything else looks pretty good down there. Make sure our prop and our condition lever are full forward. We need all the oomph we can get to get out of this strip. We'll start feeding the power in. And we're on our way. Rolling. Oh, let's stay away from those bushes on the left. Try and stay down the middle of the strip. The speed's coming up, 60 knots, 70. Just start pulling back a bit. There we go, she rotated quite nicely. Let's stay away from those trees on the right. Okay, that went relatively well, I think, for a pretty short strip. In a pretty decently sized plane compared to some of the bush planes that we've got for the simulator. Oh, it looks okay from the outside, doesn't it? We stayed well clear of those trees. And a few minutes later, we're back in the Sound. Again, look at those waterfalls and look at the water mapping. It really looks great here now. So we're going to get set up to land back at Milford Sound Airport. There's the underwater observatory where you can get a submersible trip of the Sound. It's beneath us. Make a little U-turn here and get ourselves lined up for Milford Sound runway. And you can see they've also added a couple of boats and other things, as well as the ferry terminal over at the village. Lots of detail here, and a really fun place to explore. There's also lots of helipads, and as well as the bush strips, some other like larger strips that you can take some planes this sort of size in. I wouldn't probably recommend anything too much bigger than the Kodiak to get into these strips in the terrain here that's been modeled. Probably a bit challenging, but that's kind of the fun of flight sim, isn't it? You can take whatever plane takes your fancy into whatever airport you can fit it into. Okay, let's get it ready to land now. Aim for the numbers. Bring that power back. Ooh. And again, not super smooth, but for a short runway and no passengers on board to complain, I think that was totally fine. Let's watch some replays of it. It does look epic, this area, doesn't it? Love that. Ooh, from the front it does look a bit firm. Lulu Kilo Alpha Mike Papa. I'm sure its landing gear has had worse landings than that and survived quite fine. Saw a little glimpse of the tower view there that has been modelled really nicely in the simulator. If you like to sit in a tower and watch planes land, you can do that here. And as we taxi back in to the apron, I just want to say a big thank you to NZA Simulations for giving me a pre-release copy of this scenery to show off here on the YouTube channel. This scenery will be available on the 13th of September. Thanks very much, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.